Welcome to the third in the series on the Trade Journal. Today we'll be dealing with the portfolio management page on the Trade Journal and the associated risk, and explaining which of the pages are linked to that and what you need to do to keep that current. First, a disclaimer: the content of this presentation or any other Elite Traders Club materials does not constitute a recommendation, nor does it take into account your investment objectives, financial situation, nor particular needs. Before making an investing decision based on the general advice presented in any of the following presentations, you must consider whether the advice is appropriate in light of your financial circumstances or seek further advice on its appropriateness. You can pause the recording and read that later if you wish. The agenda today: the portfolio management page, which is linked to a number of other pages within the Trade Journal, how to do your portfolio risk calculations, and then we'll cover at the end what you need to do on a weekly basis to keep your Trade Journal current. Weekly basis confirms that you are using weekly periodicity. If you're using other periodicities, that would be the period that you would be adjusting the pages in the Trade Journal. The first thing you need to do before we get into the actual journal itself is check the current market risk rating. As an elite trader, you have within your Beyond Charts a special portfolio overlay for the MT, which is the weekly periodicity, and the ST for the daily periodicity. You just drag this onto the chart. For the Australian market, you can see the codes there: $XJO. For the American market, it's $SP1500. Once you drag this onto the chart, it will overlay with these little symbols and numbers on the chart. And if you have a look to the very right-hand side of this, you can see that currently on this slide we have MR, moderate risk, and 80%. So what does the 80% mean? The 80% relates to the dollar VAR figure, dollar value at risk. Now let's have a definition of value at risk. That's the amount of your trading capital at risk on a trading opportunity where the stop loss price has not yet been trailed to break even or better. So it's the money at risk if you get stopped out up until break even. And what this is relating to here is saying that you can only have 80% of your portfolio's dollar value at risk. Now, in your trading plan, you will have decided on a dollar value at risk, normally between 10 and 20%. So if you're trading with $100,000 and your dollar VAR is 20%, you will not have more than $20,000 at risk at the moment. And what we're saying with this 80% is we're going to reduce that $20,000 again down to 80% of that, which is $16,000, because of the market risk. As the market gets riskier, the amount you can have in the market reduces, and it halves with each increase in risk. So you can see on the slide here, as we're coming out of what was, see on the very left-hand side there, where it says ER, extreme risk, we only had 10% of our dollar VAR. So from the $100,000, our maximum was 20% of that, $20,000. Only 10% of the 20%, so only $2,000 is at risk in the market when it's really dangerous. As the market starts to improve, we can double that when we get to very high risk. We can double again when we get to high risk, double up again when we get to moderate risk, up to 80%. So in your Trade Journal, on the journal summary page, you have this figure of the 20%, which is the starting amount, and this will be updated by you on a weekly basis in accordance with what we've just seen in Beyond Charts. So the calculation is the 20% is multiplied by 80 over 100, which in this case gives us an answer of 16%. So let's go to the Trade Journal, and this is the journal summary page. You can see here I've altered this. It's just a matter of just typing over the number on there, and that will change that to the current risk rating. that is linked to the page, the portfolio management page, which is over here. And you can see that that has changed to 16% as the limit that we can have in the market at the moment. And that currently I've got trades on here which are just using up a small amount of that, less than 1%, just $600 worth. So I've got quite a large buffer on there at the moment. If the risk changes and goes to an extreme level, which you might recall was 10%, which in this case would allow me to have 2% at risk in the market. Go back to my portfolio management page and you can see it's adjusted the figure here according with what's happened there. So it is critical that you do watch that, and it can change quite suddenly and you can have multiple changes. If you consult your trading plan, you can see what you need to do when those changes come through, and if you are over your limit and you have too much exposure in the market, we do give you some time to adjust to that. Normally just get rid of any losing trades is the best way of dealing with that. So I'll just go back to the journal and change this back to 16%. Now the other page that's linked to the portfolio management page is the trade journal page, where we have our trades. You can see I've got a couple of trades here which was adding up to this amount of exposure. Now the reason there's so little exposure there, if we scroll across, you can see that right here we've trailed our stops on some of these, and I've got reduced risk on these trades. There's no figure here, which means that the stop has been trailed above break even. This is a calculated column. You cannot put this in. As soon as you type in a stop level, the system will calculate whatever your value at risk is. And if we go back to the portfolio management page, that is then what shows here as my risk exposure in the market. So on a weekly basis, you're checking your trades and you've just had a couple of these enter. So the first thing you need to do is change this to open. If you don't do that, nothing else happens. You put the date that you have got into this on. So let's say it was the 1st of July 2015. And we'll assume that we have the same open price that we originally said we wanted to get in at, which is $5.39. Once that happens, that now tells the portfolio management page that I've got another $499 in the system, and that is no longer available for more pending trades. Nothing changes up here until I scroll down the bottom and I need to click on where it says select here and go to trade number 1, which was the, if I go back to the trade journal, you can see trade index on the left hand side, just a numeric value there, and you take a note of trade number 1. Once I put the number 1 down here, it pulls the code from the other page. These are my other open trades here, and if we scroll back up to the top, that has now added that $499 to my risk and taken that off the available risk that the other trades can use up if I want to take more trades in the system. So just go through that again. Trade goes from open to pending. The date of the entry is entered in here. Oops, got ahead of myself there. Nothing happens on the portfolio management page until I go down the bottom and select number 2 as now being open, and more risk is added to what I have in the market, and that comes off my available buffer. So that's the first thing you need to do. Second thing is trades that are open and we're trailing our stop, you do need to update this here so that that will feed through to the portfolio management page. As we reduce our risk from this initial $4.99 that we've got here, let's scroll across. So we need to go across So our first stop was at 4.92. So let's look at, so we got up to $5.10 with our trailing stop on that one. And the second one, our initial stop was at 59.38. And let's say that's had a pretty good run, that's up to $65.75. So I just need to go here where it says trailed stop and type $5.10 for the first one. And as soon as I do that, it calculates the risk has been reduced down to $279. And on the second one, $65.75, I'm above break even. We go back to the left-hand side. You can see that's higher than the entry price, so there's no risk on that trade anymore. And if we go back to our portfolio management page here, the numbers here have been adjusted as well. So it's critical you keep this up to date, especially if you are adding trades, and if you think you've still got a heap of risk available in the market, and you want to put some new trades, go through the process, go to Beyond Charts, check the current rating. If the rating has reduced and it's halved, so I'm down to just 8% here, go back and check. Yes, I've still got some availability here, but I do have some trades still pending in the system, so I need to check whether they've triggered. 2 of those trades had triggered. I put in the open date, go to portfolio management, update the list of open trades. Got 5 open trades here, which is exactly what we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here. And back up the top, that tells me that it's okay. I can still take more trades because I've still got a 7% buffer or $7,000 in risk available to me to put in pending orders on the market. So I can add more pending orders if I want it. That's great. Trades are going fine. And now we are going to close some of these trades. So once again, we must change this here to tell the system that this is now dead, no risk. And scroll across, exit date. Now there's room for 2 exits if you're doing partial exits. And our target was 90.45, so I'll put in the exit price at 90.45. So that's one trade closed. Go to portfolio management. There's been no change here. Why is there no change? Even though I changed this to closed, we have to take number 5 out of the system. So I go back here, number 5 here, which was ADP. I just have to unselect number 5, and the risk that was allocated to that trade is back in the system, and I have that available to me in there now to use. So let's go over that again. Change the status to closed. We put the date and the exit price. In your profit and loss column, we now have a profit in there. Once again, this is calculated. Hover over the, if you're not sure, hover over the heading. It'll tell you that this is calculated. The same with the reward to risk. All calculated. Back to portfolio management. Go down and unselect that particular security, and that risk is now available to me to use on other trades. So what this boils down to is, what are your duties on a weekly basis? You must first of all check the market risk rating. If that has changed, you then go to the journal summary, and once you've done your calculation, you change the $VAR limit. You update the trade journal page with any new pending orders, any orders that have become open and or closed. Any trades that have trailed stops, you put the new value of the trailed stop on the trade journal page. Once you've done that on the Trade Journal page, you go to the Portfolio Management page and you add any new trades and you unselect any closed trades, take them out of the process. Check your buffer, your dollar and percentage buffer at the top to see if you've got room for more pending trades, and if you haven't, you might need to make some adjustments accordingly. That's the end of the webinar, so I hope that's been helpful. If you have any questions, of course, you're welcome to call us at any time. Thank you. Bye.